This is Garage Ministries Shop Talk, encouraging you to live a better life. All right, here today on Garage Ministries Shop Talk, I have my first guest. I do have a little bit of nervousness going on today, so just have to be patient with me a little bit. But today we have Pastor Mark Pagley. He's a pastor at the NLC in Russellville, or part of, like he likes to say, part of the team at NLC Russellville. And this man is very important to me, and I think he's going to have a great word for us today. And we're just going to try to get to know him and have a little conversation and maybe try to entertain everybody out there. So I just want to get to know you a little bit at first.
Yeah.
My first question is, who is Mark Pagley? And what I mean by that, like something that you would like that you enjoy doing. Say your wife has the grandkids and your family's all busy and you just don't have nothing to do that day. And I don't know if you like hunting or you're going to go to the racetrack or try to catch a sports game, or what do you love to do?
Yeah, I'm probably kind of boring because I like the gym. The gym makes me. I go to the gym almost every day, and when you get older, you got to try to keep up with your young bucks. So I enjoy that though. I like the gym. I do like watching sports, and then I just love hanging with my family outside of And when I say that, I have such an incredible church family and community, and so between my personal family and my church family, man, that's basically what I'm up to all the time.
Yeah, you said you love sports. What's your team?
Well, if you read the original Hebrew in the Old Testament, I just try to stay obedient to the Lord, and it's and what I have found in the original Hebrew is called the Pittsburgh Steelers. In pro football, then college football, there's also a heaven team, and that's found really in the book of Genesis, and it's when God created the Buckeyes. So it's the Ohio State Buckeyes, the national champions like last year.
Okay,
And they've been like the national champions a number of years in a row. But anyway,
Okay.
So yeah.
So football's the sport you like to watch?
I do, I do,
Yeah.
and I watch a little bit of everything though.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Well, that's great. I heard a rumor that you played a little bit of baseball.
Well, I did. I did, and I have to be careful because the older you get, it's like the bigger the fish gets. It's your stories.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
so I'm at the amazing stage now. When I signed with the Giants out of high school.
Okay.
And I didn't make it very far. I got cut in Casa Grande, Arizona.
What year would that have been?
Oh gosh, it would have been 1982.
So, did you ever get to meet any of the pro players at the time?
It's hard to remember all. We're all
Okay.
in there trying to. What I like to say about that is like to say that that it was the San Francisco Giants missed out on a number of World Series.
Yeah.
Because they didn't
Yeah.
see my talent and ability at that point.
Well, I think that earthquake scared him in '89, so I don't know. But I just, my next door neighbor growing up was a big fan of the Giants, and I remember him always talking about Kevin Mitchell and Brett Butler.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And the other thing was, did you ever get to see Candlestick or?
No.
No.
We're in
Okay.
the minors, so
Okay.
yeah. I have, my dad lived in that area, so I have seen it. But
Oh,
not
okay.
to play. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we got to growing up out there. I've been to Candlestick before it got closed down, and we went and watched the A's and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Back in the day.
Well, I was in the Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh area where I got signed. And
Yeah.
I've played. It used to be called Three River Stadium, the Pirates Stadium. I played there.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so yeah.
So I guess you played. Did you play in high school and college and all that?
Yeah, no. Out of high school, I signed, and once you sign a contract, when I came back, I did try to go to college, but you're ineligible at that point.
Okay.
Once you get paid, you can't go.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Awesome. Man, that must have been exciting.
it was, but God had a. It's really cool because God had a plan I didn't see.
Yeah.
Outside of that, because I had some choices. Even in the minor leagues, what happens a lot of times is people get cut and they go to another team and they just keep trying to make their way. I had that opportunity, but I really felt like I was to come back home. here in Pennsylvania. I was in California for a little while, then I came back to Pennsylvania, and that's where I, ultimately found, why God put me on this earth. So,
Well, that kind of brings me into my next question. What brought you to God, or like what sealed the deal with this is who I am. This is the road I'm going down. Like, uh, you know, you don't have to share all the nasty details of a testimony if you don't want, or if there is something you want to share, that's fine. But just that moment you knew, like, this is the life that I'm living.
oh yeah, I'll never forget it. Growing up in, short story, dysfunctional. My dad left by the time I was 12. My mom was a raging alcoholic all my teenage years. And there was just so much dysfunction, and people have it way worse. I'm not saying it for that reason, but just kind of set this up. So when I was halfway through my senior year in high school, I was a star athlete in my community, and all the accolades that come along with that. I everywhere people want me to sign contract, sign autographs, all of that stuff. I had all of that going on. And I remember one night I actually took a girl out, and I was coming home, and I remember right where I was on Cascade Street in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. I can remember the green house. I'm driving down the road after this date. This girl's in the seat next to me, and all of a sudden I just heard rose up inside of me this voice that said, there got to be more to life than this. Because I was living that athlete star, party, and had, a lot of things handed to me outside of my home, what was going on there. And I remember dropping that girl off, and I remembered when I was a kid, uh, we went to a church, and they taught about Jesus, and I kind of went through some of the motions of it all, but hadn't been, for years. And I got up the next morning, and I went back to that church. And Jesus became so real to me, and I gave my heart to Christ. And I was one of those radical transformations. When I gave my heart to Christ, it was over. And that was the beginning, man.
It's kind of crazy how, I've heard the term like taking off that old coat, or, the just changes the man inside of you. It's kind of crazy when it happens, how you're just not really satisfied with those old things that you thought were making you happy.
Oh, that's a fact. For me, it was like 1,000 pounds was lifted off my shoulders. It's just I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah. I don't know what it was. One time I was talking about this topic, and I compared it to like when the stone was rolled away from the tomb, was like a rock was lifted from my heart.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And you can't, when you have it like that, that big quick transformation, you can't go back.
Yeah, well, you you don't want to,
Right.
and you just want to take a bunch of people with you.
Right.
Because what you've been missing out on all this time, like I was searching for all that and all the things I was doing in the world,
Right.
the party and the girls, the popularity, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But man, I just kept ending up on empty.
Yeah.
And when I found out what truly satisfied my heart, man, I love people so much. I want everybody to know. I used to fill up pews at this church, a little church of God. And it was a kind of church where the reputation is where they swing from the chandeliers kind of church.
Yeah.
But man, they taught Jesus salvation, and I just, man, I wanted everybody to get a taste of it.
Yeah. Was that like Pentecostal? Or?
Yes, yeah, it was Pentecostal, and
I love the worship in a Pentecostal
oh
church.
yeah,
Yeah, I love it.
I'm with you, man. Absolutely.
Well, so got the topic that we're going to talk about. When we first talked, you talked. I don't know how you said it to me, but it's like encouraging others. Something I love about you is telling the truth in a loving way. And I don't know if you even really know what I'm about to tell you, but uh, like I was to the point of suicide when we first talked. Like I had seen you before. I didn't know that New Life Church was New Life, but I'd been to New Life. Every time that I had talked to you before we actually knew who each other was, I was probably always negative towards you. I thought, there's no way that this dude is like this all the time, and so I was looking. I mean, I literally was like to the point of suicide, I think the day that I talked to you for the first time on the phone, and I had been looking for counseling. It was right at the end of COVID, right? So there was no counseling to be had. Everybody's like 3 to 6 months out. I started calling around. A coworker of mine actually talked about the Reengage program at New Life Church. Then that's where I got the name New Life Church. Even though I'd been there before, I didn't know the name, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was out of my mind still, because that was before I got sober. And I called the Conway campus because that was like the number that came up when I Googled it or whatever, right? And then it was like uh, within the next hour or two, I was on the phone with you. I couldn't get through to uh, any counselors. I couldn't get anybody on the phone, let alone get a you know appointment or whatever. And uh, I think that God stopped me from committing suicide, and God put you in my path that day. And uh, when we talked about doing this interview, I told you, you're the reason. You know, the things that God did through you for me is why I'm doing what I'm doing today. And so I don't know. I just wanted to talk about how important it is to encourage each other. You know, everybody out there. I mean, especially men. Because there's a lot of people that have been taught wrong, and they're hurting out there. And I don't know. We just want to chat with you about that a little bit. So
Yeah, we live in such a negative culture. Every once in a while I put on the news and I just get so frustrated because it's always negative towards somebody else, or it's just there's not a lot of encouragement coming from information highway in our culture. And I think, scripturally, biblically, God's he's the king of encouragement. Jesus is he's the author of it all, and all that he did, for all of us. And I believe we can win the world. If you look at our world today, that we really can make a difference in our world simply encouraging people. And I think men have so much, and we can get into all the stats of the influence a man has in a home.
mm,
But I believe the men's influence is so strong. If a man could learn just to encourage in his home, he could pull potential out of his family that he never knew was there. This power of encouragement.
mm,
But this is the key. I mean, we can talk about encouragement all day long, but until you and me are personally encouraged, we can encourage others.
yeah,
So when I talk about encouragement with anybody, I always go back to me. If I am not encouraged, I'm not going to be able to be the pastor. I'm not going to be able to be the dad. I'm not going to be able to be the husband. I'm not going to be able to be the friend that I want to be if I'm not personally encouraged.
yeah,
So whenever I get on this subject, I talk to people about when it comes to encouragement, because I think every one of us have the desire to be an encourager. Who doesn't? But it all starts with you.
yeah,
And so I actually have three little things that I do in my own personal life that keeps me encouraged. This is where I got to go. The first thing is I refresh my spirit. I'm talking from a Christian perspective now, that I refresh my spirit. I spend time in one of the most encouraging books in the history of mankind, the Word of God. And I spend time close to my Father, and I do it. I'm a worshiper. I love to throw worship music on. I love to pray and talk to God, and I love His Word. So, and the thing with getting encouraged and refreshing your spirit, it doesn't always take. It's not the amount of time. For me, it's just the focus time for me. I could spend 5 minutes with the Lord and leave that moment encouraged. I always encourage people like this: when you're spending time with the Lord, how do you know when you're done? Is when you're encouraged. Then you move forward, and you can naturally encourage the world around you. The second thing that I do, and I can talk so much about all of this, and I know we're limited with time, so I'll just highlight. But the second thing that I do, once I'm encouraged, then I'm able to rely on God. For us to truly be able to make the difference we want to make, it just takes faith. Well, because, if you're going to encourage somebody, your life is still happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's things going on all around you. You may be having financial issues. You may be having marriage issues. You may be having trouble with your kids. All of that stuff's happening around you, and you want to be an encourager. So you have to rely on God. So what keeps me encouraged is all the world that, if I'm in a valley or if I'm, all of that's happening, I'm putting my faith, I'm putting my trust in God. But what enables me to do that is refreshing my spirit. And then the third thing, if you're truly going to be able to encourage, or you want to encourage your family or friends or world in such a way that you're making an impact on their lives, you got to fight. You refresh your spirit, you rely on God, then you got to fight because
Mm-hmm.
it's not easy to do.
Yeah.
And you got to be very intentional and you got to look for opportunities.
Yeah.
On my day timer, I have it starting out my day as I have win the world with encouragement, just to remind
Yeah.
myself that I want to make a difference today, encouraging people. And it's interesting, even as a Christ follower, not even mentioning Jesus in the conversation, but just encouraging people opens the doors later on, and as I get to know them, to make a difference. I can tell you people all over the community, at stores, at the gym, all those different places that have experienced Christ, that it all started out that didn't even know who I was. And my whole goal was just to encourage them.
Yeah. Um, I mean, and it can start, you know, sometimes there's a discussion over, I've talked about it a little bit, but, works, the importance
Yeah,
of works
yeah,
or whatever it can get into. But, I find that even just, obviously it doesn't stop here, but even just giving somebody a smile or holding a door open
oh,
for them and showing them that not everybody's out there to get you can change the way somebody's day goes,
absolutely.
I think that's why the life groups are so important. We just got done with Reengage, and we were talking about how, the importance of keeping on and doing other things to strengthen your marriage, doing Reengage again, or going to the marriage retreat, and being around other like-minded people that are trying to do the same thing, and how it can strengthen you and just build you a better life. The other thing that you're super good at is, which I struggle with this, and this is something that I need to that I really want to get better at. When I see somebody messing up, I just want to go over and shake them, and be like, "You're doing it wrong," you know. But something that I've seen that you do is, you always have a loving way of being like, "That's not right, buddy." I don't know if it's your tone. I don't know how you do it,
Hmm.
but something that I just absolutely love is just how you can let somebody know that you still love them, but like, hey, you're not doing that right, or we need to work on this a
Yeah.
little bit.
Well, and this is why you're so passionate about doing it. You may not feel like you do it the right way all the time, but if you really love someone, it's really the truth that brings freedom. That's what's happened to a lot of churches over in our culture that have kind of gotten sucked into this, into the culture is they think if they go along with the person's sin or lifestyle, biblically, it's clear it's a lifestyle that's not right before God,
Okay.
that they're accepting them, but they're actually not loving them. Because if you're when you love somebody, you're going to tell them the truth. Because when we don't do it God's way, it always leads, it's just a matter of time. It'll be a death filled result. The Bible's real clear. Sin leads to death, whatever that looks like: broken relationship, broken marriage, no peace. You can go on and on and on. But when you give them truth, the Bible says the truth is what brings freedom and life. So when I'm speaking truth to a brother about hey, you shouldn't treat your wife that way, or whatever the situation may be, when I'm speaking truth, that's how I'm really loving them.
Right.
And so that's what enables me to do it. But I tell you my secret sauce with all of that. For me personally, it may not be for anyone else. It's praying what I pray. I say, God, help me today to see people through your eyes, the eyes of Jesus. Because if I can see them through the eyes of Jesus, I can love them like Jesus loves. Because we came to Christ, not because he came over and hit us over the head, because he loved us where we're at, right? He loved us for who we are, and he paid the price for what we deserve payment for.
Yeah.
It was his love. It's the good news that transformed our lives. Most people, the majority of people know. It's not like you're telling them, like, hey, this is wrong. They
Right.
know, but they're just trying to figure out a way to say it's okay.
Yeah.
But you do it all the time.
Yeah, my new motto is hoping that people don't have to go as far as I did to find Christ.
Yeah, come on, brother.
You
Amen.
know, hopefully they'll see this or see something that we're doing or join a life group or whatever it is. Come to Mother's Day or come to Easter and whatever it is to plug in. But I just hope that, especially when I minister to younger guys, I'm like, man, I waited till I was 42 to start making these changes. I was like, if you do it now, you'll have 20 years on me.
Come on, baby.
And it's not to have a better life. It's weird when you get caught in those traps, whether it be, the list is forever: drugs, money, girls, whatever it is. You think those things are making you happy. For me, being in addiction, I thought I had to have those things. I had to have them to be happy. And then when you finally break through that, you realize that this is a way better life. I wasted so much of my life, which we can't look back and dwell on that, but I realized that I wasted so much of my life that I could have, people talk about having financial struggles. I could have been working on my finances. I could have been working on my retirement. I could have been making my marriage better. There's so many things that I missed out on during that time. So, that's why I say I hope people don't have to go through what I went through before they find Christ and start.
That's so good. If you think about it, the enemy culture tells us the complete opposite. Go sell your wild oats. Go do all this stuff before you settle down and get things right with Christ, because you're going to miss out.
Yeah.
But the truth is, you're missing out on what you're really looking for in Christ by going out there. And what that saying with sin, sin takes you further than you want to go, keeps you there longer than you want to stay.
Yeah.
And it does. But you're flipping that, is what you're saying. You're flipping that. You say, hey, I wish, I missed out because I did go do all of those things.
Yeah.
And it's complete opposite.
Yeah. I feel like now which I'm, like I say, I'm happy with where I'm at. It's great. But now I have a road ahead of me, where I still have a lot of work to put in. But yeah, it's hard, it breaks your heart to see other people going through it when you know the truth.
Yeah.
And that's what I said to somebody the other day. They were like, well, he doesn't believe. And I was like, well, I can't deny him. Like, he may not believe, but because of what he did for me, I can't deny it. It's the truth.
Yeah, it's so good.
Because he took me. I was one of those people. I didn't believe in prayer, and I hadn't. It was my last choice. What do I can pray about it? And he fixed some things, not everything, but the biggest things in my life he took care of in that moment. I didn't think that I would ever break those chains, and he broke those chains for me in a moment. And even we were kind of talking before we started recording, even on those days that I don't feel it or whatever, like, he has talked to me so much, that I can't deny it. There's no denying it. It's not a question of, is this real or not? It's just, how far am I going to let him take me?
Yeah.
So.
And it's the greatest adventure. Living for him truly is the greatest adventure on the planet.
Yeah.
It takes guts.
Yeah.
It takes perseverance. It takes you bowing up and being a man. It is the greatest adventure. And it's an eternal impact.
Yeah. Yeah. Being a man, I had a conversation. I was having a conversation with somebody last night, and we were talking about altar calls during men's ministry, and just talking about, like, if you really want to be a man, this is how you do it. Like if you want to be a man, don't let the devil talk you out of it. Do the best thing. We are leaders, right? So
Yeah.
do the best thing for yourself, for your family, for your wife. Um, you know, uh, I can't tell you how many times people know in my testimony, how many times people have come up and said, I have this man in my life, whether it be a who, uncle, brother, husband, whatever it may be, son in law, whatever it is. And I know you know their struggles, so I want you to pray that they understand it. You know what I mean? And as leaders, we can make everybody around us better.
Oh man, it's a fact, bro.
So
Actually, our world's craving that.
yeah, yeah, true biblical. The way I hear it is like true biblical masculinity and living in the truth. People living in the truth instead of what the world tells us.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. If you notice that the people that are boldest about what they believe are the people that have the greatest impact, good, bad, or ugly. You know,
yeah,
and when they see us hesitate on being bold about what we believe, you can't put boldness with being rude or, being, belligerent, whatever. Boldness is, it's sensitive. You're loving with it, but it's really clear, man. This is who I serve, and this is why I serve him.
hmm
The world respects that. People respect that. In our culture, I used to call it back when I was a youth pastor for years, I used to call it the holy hush. Our culture tried to get us to stop talking about praying in schools, talking about God in public, can't say Mary. All of those years, all that stuff used to happen. I call it the holy hush. They try to keep us from proclaiming what everybody truly needed, Christ. And I'm thankful we live in a culture that's changing again, for
yeah.
one. But anyway,
I think no, I agree with you, and I feel like, um, you know, religion's kind of a dirty word sometimes, and that's one of those things that you just don't talk about religion. You
yeah,
know what I mean? And I think that that's something that the devil's tried to put in us, so we quit, so we try not, don't try to talk about it. But I think that I don't know. I've had a bunch of people tell me, "Oh, the world's going south." You know what I mean? And uh, that's just not what I see. When I am bold and I step up and talk to people about Christ, they're open to it,
oh man,
and they want it. They want some. With all the crazy stuff, it's getting easier to draw the line of what's right and wrong.
you're right, absolutely.
With all the crazy stuff in the world, um, I think people want some truth and want to be around others that are trying to live right. And um, yeah. So I don't know,
Well, you're a great example of that, brother. You impact people that guys like me can't touch. God's called you, given you a gift, and I love the way you go after them,
but
the way you care.
we all have our we all have our demographic. Every one of us.
Yes, sir.
Every one of us has our demographic. Just like there's people that you can reach that I would never have a chance with. You know what I mean? And that's something I would say to anybody that's listening to this or watching this or whatever. And uh, they're like, "Well, I don't know." There's a place for you. God does have a purpose for you. You know?
Years ago, I came to this conclusion. You can disagree with me on this, but I think I'm right. That as strategic as God is, I believe He's placed every human being in a certain place, whether it's your workplace, your family, your community, your neighborhood, because you are the best person to reach your everyday world.
Yeah.
I believe that's how much He loves people. He puts His best
Yeah.
in the world they live
And it's hard sometimes.
in. Oh, it wouldn't be eternally impacting if it wasn't.
Yeah.
You know.
I got a friend of mine that's working on a nonprofit. I'm gonna just go ahead and give him a shout out. It's called Bell Ringer. I'm gonna probably say it wrong. I feel bad, but it's like Bell Ringer Boxing. It's what it is it's a boxing club, and he's trying to speak life. I'm going to have him on the show later, but he's trying to speak life into the young kids and get them into boxing. And, he's trying to get coaches that are believers as well. And that's been a little bit of a struggle. And I just was trying to give him some encouragement the other day. I was like, stay strong with it, because that that's God put it on his heart to do it. It's not, he's not trying to make a business out of it. You know
And
what
what
I
a
mean?
world to be in,
Yeah.
to make an impact.
Oh yeah. Well, you never know. You might find the next Mike Tyson. I don't know. But and then be able to not not even just teach him something like that, but be able to help him prosper and have a better life than he would have if he would have never met you.
Oh, absolutely.
But I got one final question for you. But was there anything else that?
No, I just enjoyed hanging out with you. I mean, we could talk all day about these subjects.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah. And maybe we'll give it some time and see how the show goes, and maybe we'll have you back if it gets rolling and stuff. But so my final question to you is, if there was one thing that you could say directly to the men in the world, what would it be?
I it's hard to just say one thing,
Right.
but I can give you one thing. I would say there's an old saying that I live by. It's you produce who you are, not what you say. It's who I am when no one's looking determines the impact I have when everybody's looking. So I relate that to my family. I relate that to everything that I do in my life. It's who I am when no one's looking determines the impact that I have when everybody's looking. So you produce who you are, not what you say.
And that's great. Yeah, I've heard you say that before, and that it's like, well, when I first started getting sober, I told my pastor at the other church I was going to, I was like, man, I could go get drunk this weekend and nobody would know, and he said God would know, and that stuck with me ever since he said that, and that's the only person I'm trying to impress,
That's it, man.
So that's a great word. So, well, I loved having you on, and we'll see how this goes, and I know we'll get at least a few views, so we'll see how it goes. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come up and do this.
My pleasure, bro.
Oh yeah, and we got lots of big stuff coming up in men's ministry, and I think anybody that's seen this that's never been to New Life needs to come check it out, because there's always somebody speaking a good word. And
The car show for
for Father's Day we got the car show. We're gonna have nice trophies, and I got some prizes set back to go along with the trophies, and I think it's gonna be a pretty good deal. So
And then what's it, bacon and root beer?
bacon and root beer. Yeah, bacon and root beer, and we're gonna have a different speaker than usual. I think that of course, the wives always want to have a picture opportunity, so there's going to be some sort of picture opportunity set up, and I think it's going to be a really great thing. I think that anybody that has a car that wants to show it, they need to come check it out. Set up and show it, and there's a limited amount of spots, so you have a pretty good chance of winning a nice trophy. We're actually getting some pretty fancy looking trophies, so it's something your wife might actually let you sit on the mantle or something like that. And some people through the community have given some pretty nice little gifts, so it should be pretty cool. So, but I think that's it, man. And like we always say here at Garage Ministries, we're just trying to help you live a little bit better life.